Hello again, everyone. I thought I'd take a few minutes to give you a few pointers on how to approach thesis writing. I know for many of you, you haven't written something like a thesis before. You're maybe not even sure how to approach writing or how the thesis is different from a paper or a blog or a discussion forum or a case study. But these pointers will help get you started, at least get you thinking about what's really required for a thesis. First of all, let's look at writing in general. When you write, I believe you should follow a four-step process, which ensures that you use the best of what's out there in the literature and you form arguments based on the literature, and also you avoid plagiarism. Common question I get is, how can we avoid plagiarism if we have to use sources, and these sources are what other people have written? Here's how you do it. First of all, you read all the literature you can find, not all, but at least a good subset that supports what you want to study. You read the literature associated with your paper, your research question or topic. Read everything you find associated with that topic. And when I say literature, these are studies that come from academic journals, because a thesis is a study of sorts, so you are building on other studies that others have done. Then you think about what you've read, gather your thoughts about what you've read. At the same time, form your own ideas of how the work of others can be synthesized in a viewpoint that is uniquely your own. Consider that when you put forward a viewpoint, you are in essence building a case for your viewpoint based on the evidence. What is the evidence? It is what authors of other empirical studies have said. What is the case? The case you are making is the unique way you have woven together the multiple sources of evidence in order to put forward the viewpoint that you have synthesized. Again, referring back to an earlier video, this is the lawyer analogy. You are building a case. A lawyer builds a case in court based on evidence. In your paper, you build your case based on evidence from the literature. Write down the results of your thought processes, and then cite. Once you've written it down, examine your written work. When you encounter ideas that are not your own, cite them. In general, if you read a sentence and you could say, "says who," because it stated some fact that's not public knowledge, then there should be a citation. For example, if I wrote down "the sky is blue," that wouldn't need a citation. It's obvious to everyone. But if I said "the sky is blue because electromagnetic waves reflect off the troposphere at a wavelength of 39 angstroms, and that bounces off the back of our retina," if I said something like that, then I'd have to cite it, because you're going to say "says who." It's not necessarily common knowledge. So read, think, write, cite is the way to go. What is a way that will get you in trouble? Okay, first of all, I'd say you're never going to plagiarize if you do it this way, because you're going to be writing down the results of your thought processes after you've read. The way not to do it is what I call search, cut, paste, overwrite. Find articles online, snip out portions of each article that you find, paste the article snippets together end to end in a Word document in order to form a rough outline, and then overwrite. Write over the article excerpts to try and wipe out the evidence of plagiarism. You do it this way, you will always have a high Turnitin match. You'll never get close. You'll see matches, that are going to be usually beyond 30%, because you can't wipe out all of the evidence. However, if you do the read, think, write, cite approach, you'll have matches less than 5%, sometimes very close to 0%. So let's look at some pointers. The thesis is not the same as writing a paper. You are contributing in a small way to the body of knowledge, and you are learning the process for future contribution along the way. Focus and narrow your topic. Save the world after you get your master's. Don't try to do it in a thesis. Also remember, it takes time. If you rush winemaking, you may end up making vinegar. I don't play golf, but I've mentioned this before. I understand the secret to golf is having a gentle swing. If you try to crush the ball, you're going to end up hitting the ground or clipping the top, so slicing. Same with thesis. You can't rush it. Now, I've referred in a previous video to the question, is my research topic a good one? I tend to view the research topic as the tip of the iceberg. Underlying that research topic are research questions. Variables, like a common variable is cigarette smoking versus cancer. Cigarette smoking being X, cancer being the Y variable. If one varies, does the other vary? What's the underlying body of literature? What's the theoretical framework? For example, if you're studying motivation at work, you may be using Maslow's hierarchy or Hertzberg's theory or Hersey and Blanchard's situational leadership. What methodology are you using? What population are you sampling? Unless I know something about that, I can't really tell you if the research topic is a good one or not. But if you know that, you can evaluate yourself if the topic is a good one. Also consider that there's more than one approach to the thesis topic. There's a book that I've used for reference in the past called Cooper and Schindler, which is about business research methods. The idea is this: you observe a problem, issue, or phenomena at work, you think about it, you state it in the form of a problem statement, you develop a research question, you study the literature, develop the theoretical background, you develop the methodology, you conduct the research. I see this as business problem immersion. One of the difficulties of doing it this way is it's easy for students to find the problem or issue, but it's difficult to link it to the underlying theory. And often there's a big gap between the problem you see at work and actually the underlying literature and theory. So another approach is this. I call this the academic research approach. You find an area of interest, you study the literature, you look at references and citations, you discover, and that's at the end of the articles, and then you will see a thread or trajectory of research. You'll see what's been researched on this topic or this area of interest over the years. You find an area of interest that needs more work, like what are some gaps? Maybe it's been studied in certain contexts but not others. You can see different methodologies described in the literature. So in the academic approach, you're already immersed in the literature and the theory, and so it's not so much of an issue to link the theory to the problem at hand because you're really using that as a base and you're finding gaps in that body of knowledge. So there's two different approaches. So if you get stuck by finding a problem and you have trouble linking it to underlying theory of literature, maybe find a general area of interest, look through the academic literature, see if you can see the direction of where research has gone, and maybe the academic approach might help you get there quicker. And you can bounce both ideas off of each other. Try one path and try another and then go back. Just be aware there's more than one way to get to the end game here. I think of building a thesis as building a house. You've got research questions, your theoretical framework, literature, variables, methodology. But where is the topic and the title? Where does that all fit? Like I've had some people ask me, what do you think of this topic, or what do you think of this title? I view the title as the curtains that go on the windows. What's really important and the more substantial questions you need to ask are, what are your methodology, research questions, the framing of the house, the building blocks of the literature, the variables. Those are all really substantial issues that you need to address, whereas the topic or the title are more like the curtains on the windows. Okay. Also, when you do the literature, remember the literature review is goal-oriented. And just let me give you an example of this. You may start in your literature review by giving overview of the literature, significance, key foundational literature, then narrow to focus on empirical studies associated with the topic. Empirical studies means studies that have collected data. Then you move up and identify gaps in the literature and needs for future research, so that at the end of the literature review, the reader is ready to understand what you are going to add to this body of knowledge by the use of your methodology. So there can be a lot of literature out there, and because of electronic libraries, we can find a lot of it. But it's also easy to get lost. You may feel like you're lost in an impenetrable forest. Keep it focused, keep it goal-oriented, and thinking of it as a pyramid may be helpful. Okay? And finally, don't forget the read, think, write, cite approach. You do this, you'll never plagiarize. And keep thinking about how you are using literature to build a case for what you're doing, why you're doing it, what you're going to do next. You're synthesizing a view based upon the views of what others have said during studies in the past. But also remember the purpose of the citation is to cite the source of your ideas. It's really not about providing citations for direct quotes, even though you can use it for that. But if you primarily use that, you're going to have way too many direct quotes. Direct quotes should be considered like the spice that you add to the main dish. What you're really doing is writing ideas in your own words, and you're citing the sources for those ideas. So that's an overview of how to approach the thesis. I just wanted to give you another reminder as we're getting into week 3 when our first assignment is due. We'll see you in the discussion threads.